Today is the feast of Christ the King, the 34th Sunday of the year, the last Sunday in the liturgical calendar. Our gospel text is taken from the Gospel of John, chapter 18, verses 33 through 37. It's a moment we are very familiar with, one of the great moments of history. Pilate and Jesus confront each other. We have here sources of power at play. I'd like to approach this moment of Pilate and Jesus standing together by reflecting briefly on another moment in which powers are obviously at play in human history. The moment is the Tehran Conference of November-December 1943, a conference whose principal players were Winston Churchill, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and Joseph Stalin. They clearly had very weighty matters to reflect on. There were some asides, as you would have guessed. Prime Minister Smuts of South Africa was a close personal friend and confidant of Winston Churchill. He maintained that Churchill asked or suggested that the Pope might like to be involved in some of the decision-making of the conference. Stalin said, the Pope, how many divisions does he have? Now, various versions of that account are told down the ages since 1943, and different explanations are given. Often enough, it's suggested that it's fabricated. However, it is interesting that it keeps being told, which might suggest that the primary intuition here is that there are, in fact, powers at play in our world other than military powers or even political powers. This is brought to light in the gospel text. Jesus, representing a certain power, if you like, a certain kingdom, stands before Pilate, representing another sort of power, another sort of kingdom. Pilate might well have asked Jesus, how many divisions do you have? When Pilate asks Jesus, are you a king? He's asking or making a statement really of contempt. All four Gospels have exactly these words. These are the first words that Pilate speaks to Jesus. He's really not interested in trying Jesus. He does it because he's been asked to by the religious authorities. It's not a question of curiosity. It is a statement of mockery, as indeed is his further statement, am I a Jew? Now, it would have been tempting to not take Jesus seriously as he stood there, ragged, worn out, humiliated, powerless, before the greatest power known in the world at that time. Peter wilted in the face of it. Who are we to judge Peter? What would you and I have done? The powers of this world can be daunting, terrifying in their threats, also seductive, very winning in the delights they promise. The question coming out of the story from the Tehran Conference might well be asked, what powers are at play here? What powers are worth trusting? What powers are at work in my life or your life? It is very evident from the Gospels that Peter, somewhere deep inside himself, was aware that there was something more to this man, this carpenter, standing humiliated and apparently powerless before Jesus. than he had recognized hitherto. It's poignantly brought out again in John's Gospel in chapter 21 when Jesus says, "Do you love me, Peter?" And then he sends Peter on mission. Peter awakens to the truth, as indeed did others who became followers of the way, and that's how they were described initially, until in Antioch they were called Christians, Christ people, who recognized Jesus as the ultimate source of power in the world. John's Gospel, again in chapter 15, offers a beautiful reflection on how we access this power, how we identify with it, how it becomes power for us in our world amidst all the powers that are at play in our world. The parable of the vine has some very powerful, simple statements. Abide in my love is the most simple and the most powerful of them all. That is the offer. That is the gift. That is the privilege. That is our challenge, to discover the power of God by abiding in his love, to live lives that are identified with him, in communion with him. That really is the Christian life. It's got little or nothing to do with the powers of this world as such. Sadly, I think history would say that the Christian churches have become too aligned with the powers of this world. We have forgotten the ultimate source of power, the reality of Jesus, who is the Christ, God's being in the flesh in our midst, available to us, and the invitation, abide in my love.